Welcome to Flourishing Culture Consultants audio recording. This is an excerpt from a speech I gave in 2016 on the topic of organizational culture. I'd like to talk with you about how cultures are formed in organizations and why it's so hard to change them. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a big fan of the writings of Edgar Schein. He's one of the leaders in the field of organizational development. Schein puts forth the notion that culture and leadership are flip sides of the same coin, that organizational leaders create the culture when they create the business, when they determine what the product is, how it will be produced, and who will do the work. And because they own the workings of the organization, they impose their values and beliefs and assumptions about the way the work will be done. This work is then passed down to the workforce to implement. And as the group works together, they learn through their mistakes and their successes about what it takes to achieve these organizational objectives and goals, to get that product out the door. And over time, these shared experiences lead to shared perceptions and beliefs about the way we work in this organization. And as humans, we can get pretty habitual in the way we do things. And that's a good thing. It would be fairly exhausting for the brain to have to rethink daily routines. So how do we translate what I just shared with you into a working definition of culture? Well, organizational culture functions on different levels. You have the visible components of the culture. And circling back to what I said earlier about leaders creating culture, the visible components are your organizational objectives, your strategies, your management systems, your policies, and procedures. And then you have your organizational values. These are things that you readily see and hear about when working in the organization. And then you have the invisible parts of the culture. And this gets at what goes on in between people's ears. How do they interpret what they see based on their understanding about how the work gets done? And when I'm talking about culture, I'm talking about these invisible parts. That culture is the assumptions and beliefs that are formed by real experiences. And these assumptions and beliefs are passed down to new members as the way we think, feel, and act in this organization. Now, this definition of culture gets at how the brain works. The current thought in the field of neuroscience is that the brain is malleable, and it changes as a result of experience. And how does that happen? Well, neuroscientists claim that repeated mental activity causes repeated neural activity, and this repeated neural activity changes the neural structure and function of your brain. So when we learn something, it takes over a portion of our brain map, and it controls that region. And each time we repeat it, this region gets strengthened. That's why unlearning is so much harder than learning. It's hard to change habits and old thought patterns because these thoughts and beliefs become part of your brain map. So why is changing culture so hard? Well, people can get stuck in ways of working and thinking. So an organizational leader can make a strategic decision. We're going to transition from a company that has a traditional hierarchy to a flatter organization, one where anyone can make a contribution, where new ideas can bubble up from anyone amongst the ranks. And what a great idea! Well, if you have a workforce that is accustomed to a command and control leadership style, or one where there are real experiences about how new ideas got stifled or co-opted by people up the food chain, well, just saying it won't make it so. Sure, repeated experiences can form new assumptions, but that can take a long time. A more expeditious way to get buy-in is to get in front of the culture, to be proactive, to address these long-standing ways of working that can undermine the very things that you're trying to achieve. It's by working on these invisible parts of the culture that you can make change happen.